Good morning students, I'm Miss Suzanne and I'll be taking your moral science class. Okay, but before we start our lesson, children, do you know why do we need to study moral science? Yes, it is just because it teaches us the moral values. Okay, it teaches you a certain ways and behavior that you should follow in order to distinguish between right or wrong or good or bad. Okay, it also teaches how to be a favorable person as well as how to behave in society and regards others. Okay, so once we learn moral science, our life becomes much more easier and respectful. So for all these reasons, we need to study moral science. So children, this is our moral science book and the name of the book is Virtues, Values. Okay, so let's read our first chapter. Okay children, this is our first chapter in page number 5 and the name of the chapter is The Broken Pot. Okay, I'll read line by line and then I'll explain. Okay, so once a water barrier in India had 2 large pots. He hung each pot at the ends of a pole which he carried across his neck. So children, once there was a water barrier in India who had 2 large pots. Okay, and he used these pots to carry water in it. Okay, he hung each pot at the ends of a pole and used to carry it across his shoulder. Okay, now the next lines. One of the pots had a crack in it. The other pot was perfect and carried the full portion of water up to the end of the long walk from the stream to the water barrier's house. The cracked pot arrived only half full. So children, one of the two pots had a crack in it. Okay, so due to that crack, the water leaks out all the way. Okay, and the cracked pot could carry only half of the water, whereas the other pot, which was perfectly fine, and it could carry full portion of water. Okay, all through the way from the stream to the water barrier's house. Okay, the next lines. For a full 2 years it went on daily. The water barrier managed to carry only 1.5 pots full of water to his house. So children, what happened is for continuous 2 years, it went on daily that the water barrier draw only 1.5 full pots of water instead of 2 full pots of water. Okay, for 2 years it goes on like this. Okay, the next lines. Of course, the perfect pot was proud. "I'm the best," it would often say, mimicking at the cracked pot. Okay, now the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishment. Okay, because it would carry full portion of water as compared to the cracked pot. Okay, it would carry more water than the cracked pot, and because of it, it was proud of it. Okay, so the next lines. Poor cracked pot grew more and more ashamed of its own imperfection. It felt miserable for being able to accomplish only half of what it had been made to do. Now what happened is, children, the poor cracked pot became more and more ashamed of its own imperfection. Okay, the inability to properly perform the job which it was being created. Okay, so the next lines. After 2 years of what the cracked pot considered to be a bitter failure, it spoke dejectedly to the water barrier one day. "Sir, I am ashamed of myself and I want to apologize to you." So one day the crackpot decided to what? To talk to the water barrier, because in these 2 years he had enough. Okay, it was too much for him to bear the pain of being a failure, so he decided to talk to the water barrier. Okay, so now let's see what the water barrier replied. Why? Asked the barrier. What are you ashamed of? Okay, now the water barrier is asking the crackpot that why and what are you ashamed of? Okay, so let's see. For the past 2 years, I have been able to deliver only half of my load, because this crack in my side causes to leak water to leak all out the way back to our house. Due to my flaw, you have to do all the work and still don't get full value from your pot, the pot said. Now the pot is saying, from the last 2 years, the cracked pot delivered only half full of water due to the crack which was inside it. Okay, and because of that crack, the water gets leaked out all the way to the stream to the water barrier's house. Okay, due to the crack, the barrier could carry only 1.5 full of water instead of 2 full pots of water. Okay, so the next lines. The water barrier felt sorry for the old crackpot and said, today as we return to our house, I want you to notice the beautiful flower along the path. So now the water barrier, after hearing that, he felt so bad, he felt so pity for the crackpot that he told it to notice the beautiful flowers. Okay, these flowers, the beautiful flowers which was on its side along the path. Okay, so let's read the next lines. Indeed, as they went up the hill, the old crackpot took notice of the sun warming the beautiful wild flowers on the side of the pot. This cheered it somewhat, but at the end of the trial it still felt bad because it had leaked out half its load, and so again it apologized to the barrier for its failure. Now, when they went up to the hill, the crackpot noticed the flowers which was on its side. Okay, it cheered it somewhat, but again it became sad because of its imperfection, and the crackpot again started apologizing to the barrier. Okay, so let's read the next lines. The barrier said to the pot, did you notice that there were flowers only on your side of the pot but not on the side of the other pot? The pot nodded that it had seen so. That's because I have always known about your flaw, and I took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds on your side of the path, and every day while we returned from the stream, you watered them unknowingly. Now the barrier said to the pot that did it notice the flowers that were only on its side? Okay, not in the other side of the other pot. Okay, after hearing it, the crackpot nodded. He nodded. Okay, he said yes, nodded that he had seen it. Now again the water barrier said to the crackpot that he already knew the flaw of the crackpot. Okay, he knew it has a crack in it. So he purposely or he knowingly he planted seeds on its side. Okay, so that while returning from the stream, the seeds get watered from the leak pot. Okay, so now the next lines. For 2 years I have been able to pick those beautiful flowers to decorate my little daughter's room, Without you being just the way you are, I would not have this beauty to grace my house, said the water barrier. Now again the water barrier told the crackpot that the seeds which he had sown has grew into a beautiful wild flowers, and he used those flowers to decorate his daughter's room. Okay, and because of that flaw, the flower get watered every day. So the barrier used those flowers which adds beauty to his house. Okay. The last lines, the crackpot was no longer ashamed of itself. Now, after hearing all this from the water barrier, the crackpot is no longer ashamed of itself. Now, its flaws doesn't affect or doesn't bother it anymore. Okay, so children, we have the moral here. Okay, and what is the moral of the story? Okay, the moral of the story is nobody is flawless. Okay, each of us has our own flaws. Okay, nobody is perfect. So you shouldn't be afraid of your flaws because there must be something good in it. Okay, you shouldn't be afraid of your flaws. You shouldn't be ashamed of your flaws because there must be something good in it. Okay, so that's for all today.